I don't know how to start this unfortunate story, so I'm just going to start by saying that my son got his girlfriend's mom pregnant. Now she wants him to pay child support. I'm a 42-year-old female. I have a daughter who is 19 and a son who just turned 18. After I graduated college, my now late husband decided that I should stay home while he works. He was an engineer and was making enough for me not to work. 4 years ago, my husband passed away. I became a widow. I was devastated. At that time, I was thinking how I was going to raise a 15-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy on my own. I haven't worked since I graduated college, so I didn't have any marketable skills in the job market. Fortunately, I was relieved when I found out that my ex-husband had a $3 million life insurance, and he had a college trust fund for our 2 kids. And I didn't know any of this before he passed away. I knew he had a life insurance, but I didn't know how much it was. I mean, you don't think about things like that. I was thinking maybe it was about $100,000. My late husband worked in a refinery, and his job was a bit dangerous, and accidents do happen sometimes. However, he didn't die at work. He died in a car accident on his way back from a basketball game with his childhood friend named Jacob. A drunk driver T-boned their car. Fortunately, Jacob survived the accident, but he was never the same again. His left leg was badly damaged, so bad that it had to be amputated and was replaced with a prosthetic. At the time, Jacob had a long-time girlfriend. They were practically married, but never made it official. And they both have 2 kids as well, 2 daughters, now 17 and 15. Jacob wasn't as successful as my husband, and the accident put him out of work for a very long time, so much that he got on a long-term disability. After the funeral, I fell into deep depression. I thought about ending my life, but my children gave me hope. Despite that, I still felt depressed. I would go for days without eating and was developing an eating disorder. 5 months into my husband's passing, I was still depressed. I was going through several psychotic episodes. I was hearing voices in my head, and I felt like I was going crazy. So I went to talk to somebody. I started seeing a therapist, and the therapist told me to find a distraction, something to do, but I had no idea what I should be doing. And thanks to my late husband, I don't think I would need money for the rest of my life. I have no idea what to occupy my time with. I wanted to do something that I love, but I have no idea what it is. Around late 2015, about 2 years ago, I was at a grocery store shopping for food with my son when I met Jacob, his girlfriend, and his oldest daughter. Jacob was on crutches, and he was getting use of his prosthetics. I was so happy to see them. We have lost contact after my husband's funeral. He tried to reach out to me several times, but I was too mentally occupied with my problems. When I saw him and his family at the grocery store, I was so happy. He reminded me so much about my late husband. They have known each other since they were young, so his mannerism was almost similar to my late husband. Jacob was on a long-term disability, so he was no longer working. His girlfriend seems to be the breadwinner of the household now, and I felt the dynamic of their relationship when I was speaking to them at the store. He was still going through physical therapy, and they suggested that I visit them. I acted like I was busy, and I told them that I would find time when I'm free. When we left the store, my son wouldn't stop talking about their daughter. She was 15, and he was 16 at the time. He was trying to convince me to visit them and to reconnect with them. I was close with my son, so it wasn't a secret to me why he was insisting that we visit Jacob's family. 2 days after, I spoke with my therapist, and I told her how seeing Jacob in the grocery store brought a lot of happy memories that reminded me of my late husband. She encouraged me to at least socialize with them and start some kind of friendship. I called Jacob and told him that me and my son will be visiting them. They lived about 50 minutes from my house. Their neighborhood isn't as affluent as where I lived, and when I entered their house, it was clear that they were barely getting by. When my husband was alive, I wasn't a fan of Jacob. I tolerated him because he was my husband's best friend. He wasn't a bad guy or anything. I just thought he wasn't as motivated as my husband, and I wanted my husband to make friends with people of equal socioeconomic ladder. I will admit I was a bit narrow-minded in my thinking, and my husband was all about the moment and having fun. When I got to their house, his girlfriend wasn't home. His oldest daughter was home. Come to find out, my son somehow got in touch with the oldest daughter, and she was waiting for us when we visited them. We went on a walk together at the local park, close to their house. My son and Jacob's daughter was walking a few steps ahead of us, and Jacob and I were walking behind them slowly. Jacob was getting used to walking without his crutches. We spoke mostly about my late husband. He knew him even more than I did, and he was a great storyteller. He told me stories about my late husband that I haven't even heard about. I find most of the stories funny and hilarious. It was the most fun that I've had since my husband's passing. My son seemed to have had fun as well, and I can tell that he liked Jacob's daughter. Before we went home, we promised to do this again. The following day, I heard my son talking to someone over the phone, and as it turns out, it was Jacob's daughter. So that was when I knew that they were already dating. Sometime that week, Jacob called me on the phone, and we started talking often. The next time when I went to see him, his girlfriend was at work, and his daughters were in school. We walked in the park and shared stories. We started taking a walk almost every other day. It was very therapeutic to me. We became very close and started building some sort of connection. One day after our walk, he invited me into his house when I was about to leave to watch a movie with him. We sat on the couch, watching a movie. As we were watching the movie, he gently crossed his hands around my shoulder. I encouraged him by slowly leaning towards him. I haven't felt the warmth from a man since my husband passing, and I felt like that was what I needed at that time. He then started kissing my neck and my cheeks. One thing led to another. We became intimate on the couch. After that, I left and went home. I felt guilty about the intimacy only because Jacob was in a relationship at the time. We spoke again that night, and I shared my concerns with him. He told me that he would leave his girlfriend for me, and I warned him not to. We kept talking on the phone, but I slowly tried to keep my distance because I didn't want to destroy any relationship. About a month later, my son told me that he was dating Jacob's daughter. I was fine with it, provided that it didn't hamper his education, and Jacob and his girlfriend was fine with it as well. I slowly tried to limit contact with Jacob because I didn't want to be the reason why he left his girlfriend, because he needed her more now than ever. So after that one time, it didn't happen again. January 17th, 2016, my son had a birthday. Plenty of guests were there. His girlfriend was there as well. Jacob's girlfriend and daughter was there as well. I was a bit surprised that Jacob's girlfriend was there because she was usually at work at that time. I thought it was very nice of her to take time off of work to come and visit my son at his birthday. Through watching the body language, I realized that Jacob's girlfriend is quite fond of my son. After the party, I had a chance to speak to her and Jacob. I was afraid that she would find out that I slept with Jacob, but I didn't get any feeling that she knew it happened. I was trying to distance myself from them because I didn't want things to get complicated, although I had a feeling that Jacob's girlfriend was trying to be my friend. Around March, I noticed my son was spending a lot of time outside the house. When I asked him, he would say he was spending time with his girlfriend. I warned him about wearing protection and that we didn't want him to be a dad at his young age. 2 days after that conversation with my son, he was out late and Jacob was texting me, sending me pictures about him and his daughters on a trade fair. Since I thought my son was with his daughter, I noticed that he wasn't on the trade show with them. So I responded to Jacob asking him if my son was with them, and he said no. I texted my son and he claimed that he was with his girlfriend. I knew he was lying, and things didn't add up. I knew Jacob had no reason to lie, so I suspected my son was lying. It wasn't a big deal for him to be out that late, but I was curious about why he was lying about it. That was when I knew something wasn't right. My son continued to act unusual, and I spoke to him about it, but he kept saying that he was spending time with his girlfriend and his friends. I didn't know what to make of it, so I left it alone. About a month later, to my horror, Jacob's girlfriend found out that we were intimate that one time. Jacob called me and told me that he had a fight with his girlfriend because she found out that we were intimate. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I asked him how his wife found out, and he told me that she suspected it. I didn't buy it. I felt like it was his plan all along to draw us both together and rekindle our relationship. Since his girlfriend was the breadwinner, she kicked him out of the house, and he had to find a place to stay. He wanted to stay at my place, but I told him no, because I have a daughter and a son, and it would seem strange for me to be with my late husband's best friend. I gave him $5,000 to get a place and to get back to his feet. My son found out about the affair, and it was extremely embarrassing because I had to lie to my son and daughter, telling them that it was all a lie. I felt guilty about lying to them. Because of the affair, my son told me that his girlfriend broke up with him. It all turned out to be a big mess. After my son's girlfriend broke up with him, he continued to stay out late as before. I was thinking that he would be home more often now that he broke up with his girlfriend, but his social life was the same. One day I heard him talking on the phone. I figured he had gotten back with his girlfriend. When I saw his phone laying around, I opened it and looked at the pictures he had taken, and I saw some of the pictures were of Jacob's girlfriend. It was almost like she was imposing herself and interfering with her daughter and my son's relationship. A few months later, after several attempts by Jacob to get with me, I turned him down. I wanted to start dating other people, but I was waiting for my son to be old enough to go to college. After Jacob saw that I wasn't trying to get back with him, he tried to get back with his ex, but she turned him down. I felt bad for him, and over the months I provided little financial assistance to him. Not because I have affection for him, but because I felt sorry for him, and he was my late husband's friend. I was the overprotective kind of mother, and I was always snooping in my son's and daughter's phone. So one day I decided to snoop again. This time I was looking over his texts. To my horror, I found out that my son was having an affair with Jacob's ex-girlfriend, even when he was in a relationship with her daughter. I was horrified by this, and I called Jacob to let him know. When my son came home, I confronted him about it, and he denied it. The following day, I went to see Jacob's ex-girlfriend. She denied it and accused me of being the harlot for sleeping with her ex-boyfriend. We got into a huge fight. When I went back home, I told my son to never go back there again. It was easy for him since he denied the affair ever took place. I wanted to call the police because a woman almost my age sleeping with someone my son's age is against the law. I thought she would be arrested by the nature of the text messages alone, but I wasn't sure. Before trying to contact the police, I spoke to Jacob about it, and he was in support of it, but then he asked me if I want to put my son through that. I got cold feet because my children and I have been through a lot during the past few years, so I dropped it. A few months later, Jacob's ex-girlfriend got pregnant. I was told by Jacob that his ex-girlfriend was pregnant, and he said it wasn't his. It was kind of surprising because a woman her age, close to early 40s, with a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old daughter at the time, would get pregnant. Seems like it wasn't planned. I thought maybe she was dating someone and had forgotten to use a birth control pill since Jacob was no longer living with her. Fast forward today, February 2017. My son turned 18 last month, and Jacob's ex-girlfriend filed the paperwork claiming that my son is the father of her baby and that she needed some financial assistance. I was so surprised. Does she have no shame? I knew she was after our money. She groomed my son to get her pregnant for money. I presented my case to the police, and they were able to charge her with sexual misconduct with a minor. According to my lawyer, He said that the worst that she would get is a probation, and he doubts she would do time. Deep inside, I felt like this whole thing was my fault, and I allowed a predator close to my family. I severed contact with Jacob, and I will be fighting the child support case with everything I've got. I can't believe that I'm going through this. What can I do? What should I do? How do